I know I can, I know I had the capability to do this, but it's continuing to surrender each and every game, each and every day, because I draw my strength not from my own willpower. I draw my strength from the Lord.
What's going on?
How you doing?
How we doing? So
Good.
we're here in Beersheba. We got Charles James, CJ Elleby with us today. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
So this is the Baseline Podcast. It's episode 8 in 2026, brought to you by Athletes for Israel. And we're so excited to get to share another overseas basketball story. Every story is so unique. Guys come from all over. I say it every single week. The ball, the rock can take you all over the world. And it's a very special thing, and we're really excited to hear your story.
Yeah, I'm excited to join. I'm glad I can be here.
Yes, sir.
So first thing we're going to do is kind of just introduce you to our listeners a little bit, run through your career. So you're from Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
You ended up going to Washington State Cougars, so pretty close to home.
Yep.
Playing 2 years there, then still staying pretty close to home, going to Portland Trail Blazers. Got drafted 46th overall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah, so there you go. You get 2 great years at Portland. Ended up playing in the G League for Iowa Wolves, Salt Lake City, coming to Israel for a game, playing at Herzliya, back to the G League for the Swarm, for the Capitans, and now you're at Beersheba.
Yeah, a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, so take us back to the absolute beginning. When the ball was first put in your hands. Where did the love of the game come from?
Yeah, so to go back, my dad, he played basketball university. He went to Cal Berkeley. And my great uncle also, I want to say he was drafted into the CBA, was the black league back in the day. I want to say he had a training camp deal also with the Sonics for a sec.
Wow.
So yeah, my uncle Carl Irvin, rest in peace. He kind of is the one that introduced my dad even. But I come from a family of athletes. Even my mom, she, cheerleader, she swam. So that's even one of my favorite memories. I played a lot of different sports, but swimming was one of my favorite sports. But my love for the game was just from the family I come from. I was kind of born into it. My sister played basketball and all my siblings. So the ball's always been in my hand, even since I was, a little kid. Yeah, my dad would always tell a story. He's like, when I was 2 years old, I was making baskets at a 10-foot hoop. You kind of hear those stories and okay, maybe, I guess so. But, just growing up in that house, basketball was always there. My dad was a coach. It just always had us at the gym.
So I kind of want to hear what version of CJ entered the league and what version of CJ do we have here today?
In what way? Is just in general or anything that kind of comes to me?
Just in life as a person.
Yeah. When I had got to Portland, it's a dream come true. Everybody wants to play in basketball, whether you be university, even as kids, you grew up wanting to make it to the NBA. It's the best league and one of the best leagues in the world, if not, according to most people in America, the best league. Mm-hmm. So that's the dream. And for me, I was young. I didn't fully understand what came with, being at that level, the financial aspect, how to manage different things, family, friends. So for me, whenever anybody wanted to come to the game, they were more than welcome. They hit me sometimes day before game, day of game, excuse me, and I'm trying to get them in, So I was just immature. I didn't fully understand how to manage day-to-day life. And there was things that I was doing that I knew weren't beneficial that became, that started to hinder me. And at that time, I couldn't stop. And that just to be upfront, smoking weed, it's like a culture thing. But stuff like that I was doing, and it was taken away from my ability to fully be the best I could on the court. So one of the things that has shifted for me is even the person that I am here today is my faith. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe, him as my Lord and Savior. And the reason why that's so important for me is because it got to a point where basketball wasn't fulfilling me. In the NBA, I'm like, I had decent games. I got to know good teammates, great teammates, a great organization. But it just, something wasn't right. And I had to search within myself to find what it is that I believed in and what it was that I was looking for. And I was looking for the truth of, this life. But I found it in Jesus. And so being here today, I have just a new drive for life and to play basketball. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Incredible.
We usually go in like a chronological order, starting from like high school and everything. But because we're on this topic, I just kind of want to ask you, is it something about being over here in Israel that connected you to your faith?
I believe everything happens for a reason, you know. So even growing up, I grew up in the church, like, and not that I went to church, but I got baptized when I was in elementary school, me and my siblings. But it was kind of just because that was the culture, you know. I didn't grow up going to church, but I grew up connected to it in that way, like my family, you know. On every side, they're Christians, but it didn't really have any significance in my life. You know, I grew up going to Sunday school where you learn the first 5 books of the Bible and you memorize it and you get some candy. But just going forward, it got to a point like, I mean, I didn't grow up praying. I didn't grow up reading the Bible. So those are kind of some of the different aspects of what you would think it means to be a Christian. But when I came out here, I think it was just like a spark. The first time back in 2022. Yeah, after my first G League season, and it just kind of ignited, I think it ignited something in me. Because again, I don't think it happens for no reason. I don't believe anything happens for no reason. So yeah, when I first came out here, I just know I was still doing things I knew I didn't need to do, still smoking, you know, never been a big drinker, but still doing things that I guess were taken away from who I know I could be on the basketball court, my best self. So I think it was just all in working towards me finding my faith. Because, you know, you can grow up and say, yeah, I'm a Christian, but at the end of the day, you have to figure out what you believe in. So it was all a part of it. And even being out here now, I mean, you know, Israel, it's like you read the Bible and that's one of the highlights of it is you're going to continually hear the word Israel, Israel, the Jews. And so it's just a beautiful thing even to be here now as I've rediscovered my faith.
Is really powerful.
That's incredible.
And I think we'll get more to it as we get further down in your career. But let's take it back to high school, you know. Grew up in a Christian household and everything, but basketball-wise, what was it like growing up in Seattle playing basketball?
Man, Seattle culture is amazing. It's pretty normal to see guys like Jamal Crawford, Nate Robinson, Brandon Roy, you know, some of those basketball legends, even in the NBA, well known. I mean, great careers. It kind of sets that foundation of believing that, you know, this is something that's actually, you can accomplish this because you get to see those people and it's normal. You know, sometimes it can be like guys who play at that level, they can kind of seem, it's like there's separation, you know, but they are very, you know, you can connect to them as humans in a way. And one of the things that was really fun growing up was we had this thing called late night, and probably starting in as early as middle school. I want to say maybe 5th grade, but middle school for sure, excuse me. And in high school as well, but it was just really popular at that age in you know, 6th to 8th grade, where from 7 or 8 p.m. to midnight, we're in the gym playing 5-on-5 all night. Competitive, having a great time. You know, they'll feed us. And it's just a safe place where we can gather and play basketball. You know, that was a big highlight at that time. But Seattle culture, I mean, everybody comes back in the summer, even to this, you know, any given summer, like guys are gonna put together 5-on-5 sessions at University of Washington, and everybody, you know, a lot of people come.
What do you think about Seattle hoops makes it so special that it does these type of things? Because, you know, there's hoops everywhere. New York has its own thing, Chicago has its own thing, but Seattle has its own brand. And like, what do you think about the people within it and the way that it's gone about that makes it like that?
Growing up in Seattle, I think that's the biggest thing. People who have been raised there, they're not coming from another place to enjoy the culture. It's like rooted in that place, you know. So it's like a ground for producing great basketball players, and not only great basketball players, but great people. Growing up, Jamal Crawford, he's one of the highlights because he did it consistently, and I was always a part of those ones. Backpack giveaways, community events. It was just something where if you're from there, you kind of come back there and you give a hand to the next people coming up. So it's just growing up there, and it's the competitive nature. You're around so many great young athletes, I could just start to name a list of people that like I got to see and that were around my age and that close friends, that pushed me to be better, to want to be better, to excel in it.
How do you think that basketball helped your life off the court in high school?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question. For like basketball gave me purpose in high school, and as a young man, I would wake up sometimes before school and go for a run. My dad, he ran a couple marathons at that time. He was, so always going on very long runs, and he would show me the routes he would do. I'd run with him, especially like early in middle school, and I started to do it on my own. And sometimes I'd go to school and get a workout in at school before going to the gym after. I had a trainer who was just always in the gym, and I got to join him, before school with him, after school with him sometimes. So basketball gave me discipline. It gave me order in my life, and it separated me from things that, I didn't know I needed to be separated from, but it just kind of gave me a grace period of being in a place where I was working on something and getting better at my craft, and not in the places where, maybe I might find trouble or have the wrong focuses.
Was there, coming from where you're coming from, where the culture is, you're seeing Jamal Crawford, you're seeing Nate Robinson, was there a moment in high school where you said, I'm next, I want to get to that Division I level, I want to get to that pro level, or was it kind of already with you from the beginning?
It was always my desire. Growing up, there was a year I remember where Mitch Johnson, he's the head coach of the Spurs, he was coaching a crazy team that was a part of the same program I played at, and DeJounte Murray was leading that team, and it was just crazy to see. I watched them guys go, they're dunking, we're in Las Vegas, I specifically remember that game, and their one dribble pull-ups, just the way they play the game, and I look at it, I'm like, not that I want to be like those players, but I want to be able to do that on the court.
So you end up having to pick a college, right, after high school. And you get the phone calls. You even hear University of Washington. But you end up going with Washington State. What was so special about that coach and that college that you picked there?
Man, I was actually considering Seattle U over University of Washington, and it's just because of the love I felt coming from them. When I had went to a visit at the school, there was a coach, Ed Haskins. He was assistant coach there, and I grew up playing against him when I was in high school, and watching him as well. But he coached the Garfield team, a very successful team and program, and I was very familiar with him. And so when I went to the visit there, seeing him there, and just the love I felt, I actually ended up committing at the university while I was on my visit. Before, I actually had a visit set up the following week to go to Pepperdine. And looking back, maybe it would have been nice to go to the beach and experience Malibu. But I knew that Washington State was where I wanted to be, but also where I felt like I should be. When I went to that visit, it was just amazing.
Was there something about like guaranteed minutes or anything like that also pulled you there, or no?
No, nothing about guaranteed minutes. It was just, I knew, of course, it's a great opportunity. Any Division I offer is a great opportunity. But there was no guarantee of minutes. It was just the culture, the coaches that were there. Ernie Kent, he has a very great career of coaching. He's coached great programs, like even back at Oregon, he had great success. And Washington State was struggling at that time in the Pac-12, usually at the bottom part. But I didn't really look at that. I just looked at the opportunity as something that I could go into. And again, I think it was more so just how I felt. It wasn't necessarily about what would, because I know that I have something to offer to the team in a sense. I knew that I could contribute. I knew that I am a good player, at that time. I knew that maybe they were struggling, but let's see what I can bring to the team. So yeah, it was just a great opportunity, and I felt like I was away from home, 4 hours away, so it seems close, but it was actually in a way it's far, because nobody's really driving over to Pullman from Seattle, unless, family comes to the game sometimes. But it kind of was just, I was separated from that inner city life of Seattle, separated from my family, my friends, and kind of got to focus on school, sports, and just building there.
I think it almost sounds like it was such a best of both worlds, how you were relatively close to home, but you also were far enough that you could detach from a lot of things from home and say that you're focusing on what's next. And so you go in, you average 15 a game your freshman year. And so you come in, you hit the ground absolutely running. So talk us through kind of what went into you just having success right away.
Yeah. I just believed that I could. I didn't really think too much about it. And coming where I was in high school, I was just like doing everything. Score, rebound, pass. And it kind of just built me to be able to hit the ground running there. So just from where I was coming from, we played basketball. We had fun. And when I got there, I didn't look at the guy next to me. I didn't look at what anybody else had, or, I didn't compare myself. I was focused on myself. And again, the team is important, but I was wanting to help my team. And in order to do that, I did what I know how to do, which is to go out there and bring my energy and have fun.
And you do that, you have fun, you have even more fun the next year. You're playing almost 35 minutes a game, and you're scoring the ball, passing the ball. You have a great year there. You play so well that you decide to declare to the draft. What was it about after your second year, having 2 successful seasons, that made you want to go to the draft rather than do another year in college?
Yeah, my first year actually, I tested the waters, and I did the G League. I didn't get invited to the actual combine, but I did the G League one, and I got to go and experience, working out at the different team facilities, and just it was a great experience. But I knew I wasn't ready. And that next year, after that season, it kind of came down to, it was COVID year actually. And so after that season, we had just beat Colorado in the Pac-12 tournament. First tournament win for the school since Klay Thompson was there, I believe, in 2011. Damn. So I've been like 7 years or something. But what I kind of was telling myself was that if I could stay at school for 2 years, or I could leave. And I kind of thought about it like, after these 2 years, I'll be better, not only a better basketball player, but I just felt like I would be in a better place. I would have learned more if I leave, and kind of, because college is just, it's fun, it's a great time, but it's just too much, it's a lot of distractions, and there's distractions anywhere. But I knew my time was up in college. I just felt like it wasn't, as far as basketball, I needed a new challenge, and I wanted to push myself. Now, I could have stayed again, but I didn't feel like that was the right decision at the time.
Do you think that, hindsight's always 20/20, but do you think that with the way the NIL landscape is now, that maybe you would have changed, like that decision would have been a little bit different, or do you really think that you stuck with that one?
It's hard. I sometimes think about that, like some guys, we in the locker room, we talk about the NIL stuff. It's a tough decision because a lot of things would have changed if I was getting paid in college. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say, if there was NIL, would I have left, would I have stayed, because that changes a lot of things. And that also would have introduced a lot of things earlier that I kind of began to experience when I was in Portland. So it's just I can't answer. I would do it the way I did it, But with the NIL, of course, there would be different things to consider. Mm-hmm.
So after your second year, you test the waters again, and you get invited to NBA workouts?
No, so the COVID year was different because no teams were bringing in guys.
Zoom calls?
Zoom calls, oh my goodness.
That's gotta be crazy.
I'd have on my shorts and then just put on a collar shirt. And it was just a prolonged process. So usually the draft is in June, but that year it was in like November. Oh, really? So I was in Las Vegas working out at Impact, which is like just a place a lot of people go, and there was a lot of good guys there for like 3 months. I was out there for 3 months preparing, and I guess it was just a time where I kind of had gave myself to it. I didn't really, I wasn't anxious about the draft coming up, getting drafted, so it's kind of just like I had these blinders on, which I believe is just the grace of God because, looking back, how was I not worried about what was going to happen? But yeah, it was a great process there. So it was just different because usually you get to go and, of course, work out at facilities, work out with teams, but no, it was different.
The draft happens in November?
At that year because of COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
So it happens in November, and did you have like a draft room? Are you home? How did that work?
My agent asked me if I wanted to like bring cameras to like where I was having, a little get together with family and friends, but I didn't because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get drafted. But I was just in Airbnb I had got in Bellevue, which is right outside of Seattle, and just family and friends and stuff. So it's actually funny because he plays for Hapoel Tel Aviv right now, the Israeli point guard. He got drafted,
Yamadar.
the pick after me. So we both there was a commercial, and we both, when it comes back, there's our banner that shows that we got picked. So when my agent called me at like pick 44 or 43 or something, he's like, "You're going to the Portland Trailblazers at 46," and I'm like, "Nah, let's see." Obviously they had conversations on his end, so he knows, but I didn't. I wanted to wait to see it to be like, actually, it's happened because it was a little hard to believe.
It's so hard to believe, and you see it on the TV. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
It was surreal. It was surreal. It's actually funny. One of the most memorable parts, other than being with my family and friends, was I got a call from one of my buddies growing up. We played AAU from 5th grade onward, PJ, and he, it just like, he didn't say much, but we just kind of started, crying on the phone, and it was just one of those memorable moments for me, because it's hard to, you can try to keep it together, but like a moment like that is just, you've put in so much work, and again, that's the dream to get to that point, and you kind of see all the hard work come to fruition. There's just that point where it's, oh, my work is paid off in a way. And I know that was just the beginning of my career, but it was a very surreal moment.
Was it almost like a sense of relief, or was it a sense of, all right, now the journey's starting?
That's a good question. Was it a sense of relief? I got to look back a little. Let's see. No, it was the beginning for sure. It was the beginning because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, what the day-to-day life was going to look like. I didn't know what was going to come with it. So there was a lot of unknown, but I'm the kind of guy that even if I don't see what's on the other side of the door, if the door has been opened, I believe there's a purpose behind it. And, I went in and, just, gave myself to it.
So you had all of that unknown to be figured out. When did that kind of get figured out? When was it like, did the GM call you, the coach call you? What was that whole process like after being drafted?
Yeah, I got a couple calls pretty close after it happened, just short conversations. And you kind of figure out when you're going to go down, figure out what you need to go for. So at that point, the season had started, I think, pretty soon after. There wasn't
no summer league.
No summer league. Maybe, I'm sure we had preseason games. And then no fans that year. It was kind of different like that. So kind of when you get ready for games, the fan aspect of it is just like completes it. We're part of it is you and your team, but then the other aspect is you got spectators and it's fans and we're entertaining them. That aspect with that, taking that out, it kind of changed the dynamic of the game. But it was a very exciting time. So it happened very quickly. We got down there and got to work.
So it's your rookie year, and you're taking the court with Dame, CJ McCollum, Jusuf Nurkic, Melo, all these guys. There's no fans, but you're getting on a court with such legends, right? What were the feelings like? And also, did you feel like because there were no fans, maybe it made it a little bit easier at first?
Man, so all those guys there, it just was crazy. Guys I grew up watching, of course, you hear the name Carmelo Anthony, it's like in the basketball world, everybody knows who Carmelo Anthony is, of course. It was seeing all those guys, it just showed me another level. They're so professional. Damian Lillard, he's the first guy to the facility every day. one of the last to leave. Like, he is just the way he operates, the way he does things, the leadership of CJ McCollum, you know, the way they carry themselves. They know who they are. They know what they can do on the court. You know, that's not a question. So the way they come to work every day, ready to work.
Because the fans weren't there, did that make the process of your rookie year a little bit easier maybe because there was less pressure or no?
It's interesting. I was actually, it had never happened to me before. I would be on the bench and I would be so anxious. And I didn't know why I was feeling this way. You know, like usually for a game you have butterflies before the game, and I'm used to playing 35 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever. And I would just be nervous and no fans. It's kind of, you know, a little sick to my stomach. And so I didn't really understand what was happening. So no fans did not take that away. And it was just a different experience. Yeah.
So you come in your rookie season, you play 30 games, and for a second-round pick, that's not necessarily a given. So kind of what went into the process of you carving out this role so quickly?
You said the rookie season?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a game against Philadelphia, and it was my first. Okay, I'll start the week before, the game before that. We played it against Washington Wizards, and Coach Terry Stotts throws me in like the second quarter, and my rookie year is the first time I've ever played point guard. But he was basically wanting me to play the point guard position. So it was Dame, Anthony Simons, and then me at the third string, basically, point guard. He throws me in at point guard that game, and I got to guard Westbrook. And I remember trying to bring the ball up against Westbrook. I want to say he steals the ball and goes and scores. And then I remember guarding him. He hits a spin move, elbows me in my throat, and it's an and one. And my coach immediately pulls me out, and I'm about to be in tears on the bench, just upset, like, man. You know, not even mad at the coach, but just mad because I'm like, dang, you know, like, you know, you don't want to go in the game and then, you know, it's turnover and you get scored on like that. But then it's funny, the next game, you know, my coach was like, you know, my bad, I put you in that position when that happened. But the next game we played Philadelphia, and I want to say Damian was out, maybe CJ McCollum was out, and I don't remember if I started that game or if I came off the bench, but I played like maybe 30 minutes or 27, I don't remember how many minutes, and I had 15 points, 7 rebounds, and it was like my first, you know, full game. And it just flowed out there, and it was a great experience. So I know that season it was just like, the challenge was I had never experienced not playing that much before. So yeah, 30 games, but I really was playing at the last 5 minutes of certain games. And I didn't realize how much basketball I wasn't playing. Like for years and years before, not much time had passed before I was playing like full games. You know, so during the season you even get in better shape. But that season I didn't really realize that over the season I wasn't playing enough basketball. A lot of guys, especially now, they go to the G League. They get assigned to go and play. So I didn't realize how much that affected my game, not being able to, you know, because every year I would always feel like I got better, you know. So yeah, you work out during the off season, you lift weights, you run, you do what you need to do. And even throughout the year, I would find myself progressing. I'm like, okay, I know I've gotten better this year. You know, freshman, sophomore year of college, I've gotten better. And then going into that year, I felt like I wasn't playing enough, you know.
So bringing it back to what you said kind of at the beginning, you're saying now that you didn't play enough. Was it also kind of because you maybe had certain distractions where you weren't putting in enough work, would you say, or something like that?
Yes. I didn't understand what I needed to do in order to maintain in the new environment. You know, not playing as much. I didn't know that, you know, you should be at the gym first. And I had good habits in college, you know, first to the gym, and not even just first to the gym, but like every day I get my workout in the morning. You know, sometimes you go to class, sometimes you don't, but for me, I got my workout in. And then even just that process. So I had good habits, but when I got to Portland my first year, I didn't implement that. And COVID, every day before practice, we're going in and you got to get a COVID test before. So you go get the COVID test, you grab your breakfast, you go wait for 30 minutes in your car at home, and then they clear you, you're good to go, you come in the facility. So it was just a lot of different aspects of that season, but it was definitely my habits and my lifestyle at that time that took away from me being the best I could be within that aspect that year.
Was there something to like being introduced to like that NBA lifestyle that made it distracting?
No, I don't think it was about the NBA lifestyle. It was just what I was already doing before that kind of became worse. Basically, you know, I was smoking in college, but when it got to the NBA, you know, you don't have school, you don't have kind of a full day. In college, you know, yeah, okay, I work out in the morning, classes. If not, I'm gonna take a nap. We got lifting and practice in the afternoon, so you kind of have a full day, and it makes it so you kind of have stuff to do for yourself, you know. I had a lot of idle time, and I didn't spend it well. I didn't, you know, whether I'd be relaxing, watching shows, watching movies, but I began to have I already had a problem with smoking because most days I would smoke anyway before I got to Portland. It became way out of line, you know, smoking way too much. Yeah.
You know, your second year at Portland, your minutes jump, your playing time jumps. Does that almost reaffirm that you don't need to change these habits in your head at the time? Where it's like, you know, you're having all these habits, but yet you're starting to get more of a role. So it's almost like there's no need to change in that sense in terms of mentally. You know, is that something that happened for you?
The second season was a lot of fun because I got to play more. And actually we started, you know, everybody knows what tanking is. Mm-hmm. And so I won't say we were tanking, but it pretty much seemed like we were tanking that year. And before we started tanking, I had worked my way into a starting role, mm-hmm. you know, playing with, I want to say maybe Dame was out or, you know, but Anthony Simons, me, Nasir, Yusuf Nurkic, like before they took certain guys out and it was just us young guys. And I felt like I was really contributing, you know, and I had a role. And the challenge that year was once those guys got taken out of the lineups and the roster because they weren't playing, I wasn't ready to expand because I kind of limited myself in a way. I kind of was like, okay, all right, I just need to find my role. I need to do this. But I'm the kind of player, like I can pretty much do everything on the court. I can score, I can pass, I can rebound, I get a lot of steals. And I just wasn't flowing enough on the court to really do what I know I had the ability to do. Mm-hmm. So the challenge was after that year of like having inconsistent, you know, minutes, playing at the end of games, had some good games my rookie year. Now that second year felt like I really was finding a way with the group so in that role, then after that, once we started tanking, I had to step up. You know, I had to do more. And in that time, I kind of realized, and I think it reflects also in my performance, that I wasn't ready to fully step into that at that time. I hadn't prepared well enough. And I think more so it was mental more than anything. You know, I had good games where I think my career has 18 points against Detroit. And, you know, 18 points, yeah, okay. It was a good game, you know, and I just couldn't consistently replicate that on any, you know, and it connects back to my lifestyle, how I was living, where maybe 18 or 15, 18 should have been my baseline. Mm-hmm. And then maybe I have a good game, maybe I have a bad game. But it just was trying to hit that mark and then just being nowhere near that mark.
So you play, in the beginning you said you were playing alongside Anthony Simons, Yusuf Nurkic, playing with like such elite guys, and kind of, you said you were kind of starting to carve out your role. How enjoyable was that, playing at such a high level caliber of basketball?
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. It's something that brings out the best, you know, in everybody. Great atmospheres, you know. You go and play at certain arenas and it's amazing. So playing with guys like that at that time, yeah, it's nothing like it. Yeah.
So talk us through a little bit. So you played your 2 years at Portland, mm-hmm. and then you go to the G League. So what went into kind of that decision? How did that play out? That, I mean, as you said, you were getting 20 minutes a game, in over 58 games for the Portland Trail Blazers. And then the next year, it seems like there maybe isn't that NBA opportunity, and you go to the G League. So kind of what happened there?
Yeah, so coming out of leaving Portland, because they made it clear they weren't gonna re-sign me. I got a training camp deal with Minnesota. And then there was maybe one other option, which I didn't take, for a guaranteed two-way. And then with a training camp opportunity with that team. But I got a training camp deal with Minnesota and didn't make the team. And then I played for the G League team. So it kind of was just trying to make that team, get another opportunity in the NBA, and not making the team pretty much is sign with their G League. It's kind of pretty normal if you get a training camp deal to play for that G League team, unless you want to go overseas. So that was just kind of how I got introduced to the G League, and it was pretty, it's pretty normal for that to be kind of one of the scenarios that could happen. And of course, I wanted to make the push to get another opportunity in the NBA. And so that season, I played most of the season with Iowa Wolves, and then that's when I also got released, and then Salt Lake City picked me up, the Utah G League team.
Did you feel like almost that you were stepping down in competition, or did you feel like, no, this is just part of the journey? It's pro basketball. It's part of the course, especially for like a second round pick. Sometimes opportunities aren't always there just because of politics of the league. And the G League is still this high level, great competition. Did you feel like, which way did you feel about it?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I had started, practicing and playing with my teammates, I didn't think it wasn't necessarily a competition difference, because it's great guys, great players. And it's very thin line between, guys in the NBA, guys in the G League, even guys over here in some of these top leagues, of course. At that time, it was more of something within myself that I didn't understand, that I wasn't where I needed to be as a person. And so I felt like, yeah, I know I can play. I know I am good enough. But my approach wasn't pure enough. It was like, I wouldn't say it was entitled, but it was like arrogant. Like, it just took away from who I know I am, and yeah, that was the challenge, and not that, I don't think I necessarily was a bad person, but it brought out something in me that, might have not been seen before. And so I think that's what happens even in challenging times, is you start to see certain things that will hinder you from making the step to the next level.
So what was it about that first G League year that, like, you said you were in Iowa and then you went to Salt Lake, right? Because in the G League, any team can kind of pick you up. So you experienced that in your first year. What was your feelings like towards the G League in that season? And even looking back at it now.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I did still connect with my teammates. And there's a coach that's with Minnesota now, James White. And, before practice every day I'm there, usually the first in the gym, getting a workout in with him. And he's just a great guy. He brings great energy to the gym every day. And I had a lot of fun in the G League. Even in Salt Lake, So that year in the G League, I kind of felt like it was it was a good opportunity. And I think the challenge is everybody there wants to make that step up to the NBA. So it kind of creates a very competitive culture across the league. And it brings, you see, there's great players all across the league even, and opportunities are constantly being, guys are constantly getting opportunities. So I felt grateful for the opportunity.
So now we're going to move on to Israel. But before we get to Bnei Herzliya, we're going to do this little segment called Myth or Fact. We're just going to give you a line and you say if it's a myth or a fact, and you can elaborate. So, myth versus fact. Once you make the NBA, you're set for life.
Myth. It's not about basketball, It's bigger than basketball. But, you could say if you have a successful career in the NBA, you'll be financially well. But there's just so much more behind the scenes that you need to have in order to be set for life. And yeah.
Myth or fact, NBA players have everything figured out.
I think that's easily a myth, just because you can kind of see everybody in the NBA is still human. And, you still have to deal with the things that happen in life that, that are hard to deal with and stuff.
And then myth or fact, going overseas is a step backwards.
Myth, another myth, because sometimes we as humans, we measure things by the level, and that's not always the best measurement to where you actually are in life. It's not always about how much money you're making, although it's great to make a lot of money, so that's a myth.
Well, you said level. Would you even say that sometimes the level could be better overseas?
It's different basketball. There's guys overseas making more money than NBA players, so if you look at it like that, well, there's great opportunities. But as far as the level, I mean, it's just a thin line. You see guys from the EuroLeague even going and getting opportunities again in the NBA, whether they were there before or it's a new opportunity. But as far as just the level, a lot of times it's just from perspective where people say, of course it's more desirable, especially if you're from the States, to be in the NBA. But there's great basketball overseas, great opportunities.
Last one.
All right, last one, myth or fact, talent alone keeps you in the league.
Talent alone, maybe it's a fact for some people, who are extremely talented. But for me, a myth, because I've always been a hard worker, and I couldn't rely necessarily on talent alone.
So you have this G League stint with Iowa and then Salt Lake, and then in that same year, you take a flight overseas to Israel. So you go super far. This is your first stop overseas. You get off that flight. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, it's actually fun to go back a little bit before that. Towards the end of my time in Salt Lake City for the G League, with their G League team, my coach offered me an opportunity because there was, I believe he played out here, Isaiah Swan, and I kind of was like, no, maybe somebody else might, want that opportunity. I was kind of wanting to go home, and then my agent brought it up again, a different team, and I kind of felt like, wow, if this is coming again, then maybe I probably should go to Israel, and it's the right place to be, the right thing to do. So yeah, when I came out here, once I was here for a bit, it felt like a paid vacation a little bit because I wasn't playing. And I was just enjoying myself. I was in Herzliya, so I'm close to the beach. It's nice weather, and I was just enjoying it. Yeah, it was good to be away from home and kind of like a breath of fresh air to be out of the country.
And that was your first time going overseas to play basketball. Was there anything kind of scary about going overseas?
I wouldn't say there was anything scary. The hardest part is you're kind of pretty far from home. But there was nothing scary. It was just something new for me, and I always enjoy getting to experience something new.
It's one thing that we see about people going overseas all the time is that it can be a little scary in the sense of like it's a completely new place. But I think one thing that we find about Israel is that there's some similar cultural things with America. So was there things that kind of made you feel more comfortable while you were here?
Yeah, I had everything I needed, in a way. And like you said, it's very similar culturally. Great food, great people, very warm and welcoming. And a lot of people speak English, so you kind of don't have the language barrier. And it was just, I felt very comfortable right away to go where I needed to go. And again, I had some good friends while I was out here as well.
So you come over here for a month and a half. What was the next stop on the journey in the summer? Were you just working out, or did you do any tournaments or anything?
I believe that summer I did the TBT tournament.
Okay.
With Floyd Mayweather's team. There was a guy that I worked out with at Impact, Jordan Crawford. He's in the top league in Turkey right now. I played him last year. He played a little bit in the second division last year in Turkey, which I was in, and we lost to them in the championship, which was a lot of fun. He played great. I carried his team to that win. So he invited me for that opportunity to come play with that team, and it was a lot of fun. But other than that, just at home working out, and I wanted to make another G League run and see what I could do. And to kind of jump forward in that, I ended up playing for 3 teams.
3? I saw Greensboro and Capitanas.
I started out on a training camp deal with the Utah G League team as well.
Yeah.
They released me. I get picked up for 6 games with the Greensboro Swarm or something like that, 10 games. and then I'm home all year. And I get 3 games at the end of the year with the Capitanes.
So what was that like being in the G League, but also being in Mexico playing?
Well, I didn't really get to experience Mexico as much as, I probably wanted to, because I was only in that city, in Mexico City, for one night. But it was a cool experience. Like, I did what I could while I was there. But just being in the G League again, and the part about that year that was so unique was I was home all year. And that was kind of the time where I reconnected with my faith, which when I say reconnected, it wasn't necessarily the connection was there before, but that was the time where I found myself going to church and reading the Bible, and life slowed down and I kind of was disconnected from basketball. I still working out, but kind of going and exploring that area.
Was there a point where basketball kind of didn't feel the same for you?
For sure. I would say even those 2 years in G League, I kind of was having times where I felt like maybe, it is time to turn the page. And I just didn't find the fulfillment that I did before in basketball, which was a big challenge because all my life, basketball was what was the core part of my life.
So then you go from playing, bouncing around the G League a little bit and then reconnecting with your faith and reconnecting, and then you look overseas again and you go over to Turkey. Can you talk us through kind of what that process was like?
Yes, it was challenging because I had a hard time getting a job overseas after not playing in the G League much. So I just hadn't been playing basketball that year. And when my agent started to look overseas, there wasn't much that was coming my way. And it got to a point in the summer where my agent was like, this is the opportunity that has come. It's getting close to the season. What are you going to do? This might be a good opportunity to take. And with that kind of the situation, I had to take the opportunity and go to that place because I wanted to keep playing basketball. I didn't want to, be home again. I felt like I had spent the time that I needed to, and I wanted to expand and expand, not necessarily knowing I wasn't going up in level, but expand as in continue my career. And even in a situation where once I got there, I got to begin to have a big role again on the team and find the joy for the game again.
Talking about big roles, you have a great year in Turkey, and then you come over here and you're balling. And, did you ever feel like you deteriorated your game, or did you feel like you were always at that level, you just weren't getting the right opportunities?
Coming out in these last 2 years, I feel like I've just found my passion again for the game. Before I had the opportunities, I just wasn't where I needed to be in order to be my best self on the basketball court. So I think with these last 2 years, it's just been a time to expand my game where I know to where I know it is or has been, and then get even better. So no, I don't. Those opportunities before, they were a great time for me to do these same things because there was ample time for it. It just didn't happen at that time. And even though I may have wanted it to, I love how the process and the journey has been to this point.
Now that you have found this, like your passion again for the game, and you're guided by faith as well, what are some goals you have for like the rest of your career, for what's next, or also for this season?
We've been really pushing here in Beersheba to try to make the next step forward as a team because we've lost some close games even earlier in the season where we're right there. Some of them are against, let's say even more recently, Hapoel Tel Aviv, we lost in overtime. Mm-hmm. And then early in the season against Rishon, we lost at the end, right? Like, I don't know how much we lost by. But for this season specifically, we're just trying to continue each game to make the push we know we can because we just got a great group of guys, and it's been a lot of fun. So we're trying to really make a push. We're in 7th place now, but to, even break through and see where we can go with that. But the goal is, which I believe we're trying to make a push to the playoffs, and then at that point, it's like we want to go for the championship, So I don't think we're limiting ourselves in what we can do, but it's just taking it a game at a time. And then looking forward with my career, I just want to play high-level basketball. against some of the best players in the world. And, who knows what opportunities will come. I have my desires. I do desire to play in the NBA again. I do desire to play in the top leagues in the world. And with that, you kind of just surrender to where you are now and trust that you're going in the right direction.
So in Portland, you said you had an 18-point game. And for you, it was about how was I able to get those 18-point games on a consistent night, every night. Now you're averaging 18 consistently. And hopefully the season pans out that you average for the rest of the season. But where you're at now, what has been so significant off the court that has kind of allowed you to stay at a consistent 18?
Yeah. It's interesting looking back, like even in college, that was the last time I've averaged around that much, aside from last year. And just to reference college, I didn't necessarily try to score a lot, just what I did. It's just the kind of player I was in high school, AAU. I've always been able to score the ball. I scored 1,000 points in 2 seasons at Washington State. And, I had the freshman scoring record. I passed Klay Thompson, and then there's another guy that was first, so Klay was second. And then Miles Rice, I believe his name is, if I'm not mistaken, he had broke the record the next year, which is funny. He was hooping. So just to reference those years, like now it's yeah, I know I can. I know I had the capability to do this, but it's continuing to surrender each and every game, each and every day, because I draw my strength not from my own willpower. I draw my strength from the Lord. And with that, I don't have to, yes, I work hard and I prepare myself each week. I'll come early, get shots after with some of the guys. And you put in all the work to do, to have success with your team and to win games. And there's a time where you get on the court and it's time to play. And at that point, you've done everything you need to do. There's nothing else to think about. And so really for the day-to-day now is just kind of continue to lean on my faith and, stay in my word, read the Bible, and put my trust in the Lord.
So going back to my question from the beginning of the show, what is it maybe about Israel that has helped you strengthen your faith?
It's a lot of history in this land. And again, Israel is one of those names you read the Bible and, it's the chosen people of God who God chose to use through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And so being here in Israel and getting to connect with the people, getting to be in this land, it's given me the opportunity to see the reality of what I believe in, which is that, Jesus lived. Jesus walked amongst us. And most people agree with that. Most religions agree with that, even Jerusalem agrees with that there's this history, there's this evidence, and it's tangible. And so being here in Israel has just been an opportunity to strengthen my faith because I get to share my faith and I get to be in a place where God moves mightily, and when I think that's one of the biggest things is those who come to God must believe that he is God and that he's a reward of those that diligently seek him. There's a scripture that says, and I believe it's in the Old Testament, which is the Jewish books, that you will find God when you seek him with all of your heart. And being in this land and knowing what has happened in the times past, it's just reignited and igniting what is within me.
Have you gotten the chance to go to Jerusalem and these places?
Yes, I've been to Jerusalem. I've got to go to the old city. I even got to see right next to the old city, there's what's called the Garden of Gethsemane, which is where Jesus was before he was crucified. And that's where he poured out his heart out before God. And, he said, if this doesn't have to happen, don't let it happen. But not my will, your will be done. And so sometimes, even in that, it's where, I want to play in the NBA. I want to play in the EuroLeague. I want to play in the best leagues. But, I had to go to the G League. I had to go to the second league in Turkey. And, by the grace of God, I am here today. But not everything is what it looks like. You know, not everything, you know, Jesus was led to his crucifixion and he was crucified, but in that he was resurrected, and now through him the sins of the world have been forgiven. So I say that to say, you know, it is faith that allows us as people to move forward, because without it, we're either trusting in something that's not gonna last, something that is fleeting, you know. That's where in the time past, like weed, you gotta go and you gotta do that every day to get that feeling again of comfort, you know. But I don't need anything anymore. I just continue to rely on my faith, which gives me that life and gives me that purpose to move forward, because there's nothing that can sustain me, you know, that is physical, because everything serves a purpose. You know, I got to eat food and I got to drink water, but that's just to feed my body. You know, there's something within us that is longing for more, and that fulfillment comes from God.
Wow, nice. And so you leave Herzliya in 2023 in the spring, right? And then you go back, and then you come back this year, right? With your faith and everything, did that make it easier to come to Israel? Because, you know, you hear all these things about Israel and like how there was war and all of these things, but you see Israel as the place of the chosen people and this. So did that make it easier to come here?
The first time?
This time.
This time. It made it a lot more exciting, because before I was just kind of coming because there was opportunity that came twice, and I'm like, the second time I should probably take this. This time around, yeah, with all the political stuff going on, for me, it's a factor, but it didn't create any hindrance for me coming back. It just, it made me excited because of where I was and where I am in life to come back.
And then asking you, kind of looking back at the NBA, you had a different level of confidence. How have you learned to rebuild that confidence after that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's interesting because when I was in Portland, I found myself, you know, you shoot a shot and, oh, I know why I missed that shot. Dang, it's a little left, or dang, it's a little right. And I began to be so critical of myself, and it made it hard to enjoy the process. It made it hard to, you know, failures happen, or you fall short, and it happens, but it made it so where I was so critical of myself that I couldn't even fully experience, you know, the joy of being in the NBA. Although I had great experience and a great time, and there was much joy, it just made it hard to maintain that. Yeah, so now in times past, and even at that time, where was my confidence? My confidence was in what I could do. It was in who I know I was in times past and the success I had in college. It was in what I knew I was capable of, but for some reason I was struggling to replicate that. And so my confidence was in myself. And now, you know, as I've been rebuilding, my confidence no longer is in me, because even in times past, though I put my confidence in myself, I don't have the ability. I'm not the, you know, sometimes we as people, we even, it's only by the grace of God that we are able even to breathe and to enjoy life. We don't sustain ourselves. If one day I go to bed and I don't wake up, it's not because I didn't choose to wake up, you know. So as I've been rebuilding, my confidence is in my maker, and I draw strength from that.
So
Yeah.
just to pick your brain a little bit more, what does success look like today versus before?
Success before was a good basketball game. It was having a good season, winning. Success now is being rooted in my faith, because it's easier to thank God when you just win the Super Bowl. You know, I shout out to the Seahawks. It's easier after a good game to say, thank you, God, you did that. But what about after a tough game? What about after a loss? And so for me, through the ups and downs, I've just continuing to trust in him. So even in a loss, there's success. Now, everybody wants to win on any given night. That's the desire, that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But also now with the loss or with falling short, does it make you feel like you're, is the unsuccess in that, or is it in how it makes you feel? And for me, success is not a feeling. Success is me being fulfilled in who I know I am, which is a son of God, which is a believer in Jesus Christ. Win or lose, there's a lesson in it. And if you can build enough, then you can continue to help your team win. I can continue to help the team win.
And just besides for faith and everything that you've said about Israel until now, looking back at Herzliya and now being here this year for a much longer time, a longer period, what have you really enjoyed about being here in Israel?
GDB, the burger spot. I really enjoyed that. One of the fun things, we've been going out to eat at this restaurant pretty much once a week in the last month or so. And just connecting with my teammates has been a lot of fun. So great food. That's some of the main stuff. Like, it's just simple stuff like that that really brings me joy, because I don't do much. I don't party. So whenever I get to hang out with the guys, and this is kind of outside of the basketball court stuff, but I know it's getting warmer out. Went to the Dead Sea early in the season. Going back to the beach once the weather gets warmer, swimming. That's just some of the stuff that I usually enjoy doing and kind of spending my time outside of the basketball court.
A kid from Seattle watching this interview, what is some advice that you would give them about their possible journey that's coming up?
That's a good question. Advice to the young guys coming up: find who you are outside of basketball. Because if your identity is in basketball, then there will come a time where, you need to figure out who you are, and without knowing who you are and outside of your sport, you're going to be lost in a world that has enough distractions already. So find out who you are, because in that, everything will make sense. And, in a world full of a lot of hate and a lot of violence and a lot of darkness, your fulfillment will come in knowing that it's not about your success. It's something more that is already within you. You just got to find it.
All right, you got it right here.
Here we go.
24 seconds. So the shot clock brought to you by Athletes for Israel. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1. One habit that keeps you grounded.
Reading the Bible.
Who you call after tough games.
The Lord.
Shawarma or falafel?
Shawarma.
Favorite Hebrew word?
Shalom.
Crossover dunk.
Crossover, then dunk.
Weightlifting, cardio.
Cardio.
And favorite thing to do on off day?
Relax.
So that's it. That's the Baseline Podcast with CJ Elleby. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
It's been a lot of fun.